Greetings. We're back again, and today we're going to be talking about building a base of support for all of our writing, or a foundation. If you've ever seen the pyramids in Egypt, you'll notice that they're really wide at the base and they're narrow at the top. So if we're going to be good technical writers, we need to have that really wide base as our foundation. So we'll jump into this presentation and pay attention to the big category markings, and then we'll wrap it up afterwards, as usual. So let's dive in. All right, Technical Writing Foundations. This is Professor Luke Buckley back again with you. And in this short presentation, we're going to look at foundational philosophy for our technical writing. There are several pieces that roll together to give us that firm, strong base on which to build our skills up. Okay, let's dive in and look at some modes of communication. If you've ever worked with kids, I know you've all been kids at some point, but you might not remember that the first skill of communication you had was listening. As babies, all you can do is listen and then sort of verbalize, which is the next one. Babies go from crying as their only communication to learning words to speaking those words. And as we grow in our abilities, we learn to speak better, don't we? Well, hopefully we do. After we learn the skill of speaking, we generally learn how to read. Okay? And after we have learned how to read, we can recognize words and our motor skills get there. Writing is the fourth one. So 4 modes of communication. Building up from least to most. We listen, then we speak, then we read, then we write. Once we can do that, we have the ability to analyze our problems. We can evaluate evidence, and we can draw conclusions. If we're thinking about the childlike example that we've been talking about, standing in the kitchen floor looking up and seeing the cookie jar on top of the refrigerator, that child will find a way to get up to the top of the refrigerator and get the reward of the cookies. I've seen it happen. I have 3 kids of my own, and I also have a grandson that's kind of like a monkey. So, onward we go. Once we have mastered our modes of communication, we can start building in complexity our grammatical, what I'm calling them, building blocks. Right? We start with, what do you think? Letters, yes. What's the first thing we learn? Alphabet. We sing the song A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Once we have letters, we can roll those together into words. Learning how to make words and recognize words. Put them together into phrases and clauses. Our phrases and clauses can be put together into, you all shout, sentences. That's correct. Our sentences can be rolled together in ways that make sense, and now we have paragraphs. Once we have paragraphs, we can put many of them or few of them together transitionally in a way that makes sense. In a short form, maybe we're writing a letter or an email, or a long form, maybe a memo or a report or a proposal. The sky is the limit once we know how to do this correctly, effectively, efficiently. Okay? Many types of documents that we have. We can send emails, we can write business style letters, we can write information reports, we can write progress reports, we can write conclusion reports and recommendations. We make decisions all the time on how we're going to write them and what we're going to include, what type of language we're going to do, who is our user, how well do they understand what we're talking about. And at the very bottom right there, we have the user's experience, and that's what we will focus a lot on in my course. How do we meld users' needs, our business goals, and information together in a way that is useful, usable, findable, credible, desirable, that user design, user experience honeycomb, they call it. Okay? Those are qualities and characteristics of good user experience. All right, so we do have many different types of documents. If you have taken an introductory technical writing or any writing course, you know that there are some certain formats that we follow. And for business letters, it may be block style, maybe left aligned. Always one blank line between each of the pieces. Address, date, address, opening or professional greeting, then the body of our letter, and then our closing with our signatures and our enclosures. Memos has a format. Who's it going to? Who's it from? What's the date? What's the subject? Emails. 2. Carbon copy, blind carbon copy, informative subject. Okay, makes sense? Now on the right hand side, here's a process you might have seen if you've taken my freshman level class or any freshman level class in writing. It's a process. We have processes in writing. Okay? Well, if you don't follow them, you could just put it on the paper and go, but you won't be very successful. Okay? Plan your document out. What type of document are you going to do? What are you going to say in that document? I've used the example before of dragons flying through a high mountain valley. If we're going to inform our readers about what we've studied for this, then we would say, I want a memo and I want to include this content, okay, which is step 2. Then I arrange my ideas. I want to start off with the very first idea first and end up with the conclusions last. That's the only way to make sense. Then you start drafting your content. Here's where you actually start writing. We haven't written 3 steps in. Now on step 4, we start the writing process. And then we go into steps 5 and 6, and these are cyclical. We revise our content, and then we edit it. We revise, we edit, we revise, we edit. And this is the perfect place to grab some peer review. Okay, grab your partner, grab a friend, grab a business associate, and say, would you look over this for me and see if it makes sense to you before we send it out to our final audience. Survey company, back in 2012, they did a large-scale survey. 100,000 companies or employers were surveyed on how they connect the employment gap between engineering or employers and students. Excuse me. So 100,000 companies got this survey. They responded and said, well, we think that 9 out of 10, or roughly 91%, of any student coming out into the employment world should have had some internships that would teach them some skills. On the other side of it, though, 50% of the companies never hired interns. So there's a gap there in what they said and what they did. Well, what did they want to see in these people? Okay? When these 100,000 companies responded back to millennial branding, they said the most important skill students can have getting into the workforce is their communication and their ability to communicate not only with their peers at the company, but the customers on the outside. So 2 prongs. They must have a positive attitude. 97% of the employers wanted a positive attitude. And number 3, the ability to work in a team. This is writing 321 to a T. Okay? We will work on communication skills, we'll work on attitude, and we will work together in a group to get things done. All right, so our documents, right? We build documents, and to be successful documents, it must do some things. It will have characteristics. The first one on the board here is it must address your readers. You as the author should always know who are your readers, how much do they understand about your subject matter, how well do they speak and understand the language in which you are writing. In our case, it will be American English. And how will they use your document? Are they using it as an instructional document to build something? Are they using it as a report to base their recommendations on? Okay, you need to understand that as you're writing. Second characteristic, it will solve problems. Well, the problem you solve with your document may be how do you assemble the company's most popular product? If you're building Legos, can they make it look like the picture? Okay? Or it may be frequently asked questions. It's a very popular thing. How do you follow the social media guidelines for the company with which you work for? These are all in documents, and they should help you. Your document should also reflect the organization's goals and culture. Right? Imagine working for a large natural resources consulting firm. You're going to need to know how do we follow the not only companies, but local, state, and federal guidelines related to the discipline we are researching, whether it be water, coal, energy, wind. You need to know this, and your document should help you be successful in that. Documents are produced collaboratively. Here's the thing, you don't know everything about your topic. I'll just put it out there. You may be pretty smart, but you're going to need help from other people to be successful. Okay? You're also going to need to learn how to research, and then combine that research as a group together into something that helps your readers base. Documents will use effective design principles to increase their usability and readability. Consider the typography. What font do you use? How big do you use it? The spacing between things, the color you use, etc. And we'll discuss all these things in the course of this semester, and we will make usable, attractive, and useful documents which use words and images to support the reader. You've heard the old saying, a picture's worth 1,000 words. And by the end of this course, if you're not already, you should be adept at including graphics and images that support your text, okay, to communicate clearly your purpose. All right. See on the right-hand side, the more of these you roll together into your document, the more effective your quality of design is. You know, it's very light at the bottom, and at the top, it's very dark. So we've got all of those characteristics there. It's a strong document. All right, so we have documents, but we should be able to tell how well our documents are working, and that's where our measures of excellence come into play. Okay? There are 9 of them, I believe, and the first one is honesty. Most important measure of excellence. Okay? We need to make sure to tell the truth and never mislead the reader. Always be moral and ethical, and avoid the opposite. We don't want to be dishonest, immoral, and unethical. Can cause our reputation some serious damage and can bring legal trouble to the companies for which we work. Okay? Second one is clarity. You must produce a document that conveys a single meaning to the reader that they can easily understand. They shouldn't have to hunt through it. Your document should not only be clear, but accurate. Slight inaccuracies can confuse and annoy your readers. Major ones can be dangerous and expensive. Okay? They should be objective and unbiased. And make sure to not overstate or omit, leave out important facts. Okay? Your document should be comprehensive. It provides everything that your readers need to understand and complete their task. Background, sufficient details, supporting information, research, conclusions. Your document should be accessible. It can be read and consumed by all people, regardless of any disabilities they have. Okay? You can see by my glasses, I am slightly vision impaired. You can't see my hearing aids, I am hearing impaired. You need to make sure that anybody, regardless of their disability, can consume your material. Usability, we'll talk about this in depth, but it's simply the document achieves its purpose and meets the reader's needs, not your needs, the reader's needs. It is concise. It conveys the right amount of information in an economical fashion. It has a professional appearance. It communicates with the reader before they read a single word, and it adheres to some formatting and design standards. Say a business letter. You should open up and it should look like you expect a business letter to look. And finally, our last measure of excellence, correctness. The document follows the conventions of grammar, spelling, punctuation, mechanics, and usage. And we will cover these in depth as well. I'm a stickler for all those, so by the time you get done with my course, you will be an expert at spotting and fixing your own grammatical mistakes, hopefully, if you're paying attention. All right, so I believe this brings us to, yes, the end of this discussion of our foundational elements, and you have a choice to make. Are you going to follow paths, or are you going to be a trailblazer? Right? We will learn many things over the course of this semester, and I hope that you choose to do both. I think they're both critical to success. You need to follow some conventional guidelines, but you need to break out of some molds to make sure that your documents grab attention and satisfy your readers' needs for the information you're trying to give them. So that is the end of this particular slide deck, and as always, I will have some follow-up comments, so stay tuned for that. Well, did you learn anything? I learned that there are 4 modes of communication that all human beings share. I learned that there are some grammatical building blocks that we work our way up from words all the way to paragraphs. And then we have a process which we use to write. And then our documents have certain styles and characteristics as well as measures of excellence to see how well we created our document. So hopefully you learned something. And as we move forward in the semester and as you move forward in your writing career, all of these tips and tricks should be useful, helpful, and make your readers have a better user experience. So this is the end of our talk for this time. Professor B signing off, and stay tuned for more episodes.